Today's video is with Andrew Manns of Manns Organics, and in this one he's going to be talking about his biological pest control that they're utilizing in their greenhouse operation. Now, if you look at this greenhouse operation, I would advise you to check out the last video I did with Andrew here on YouTube just to get an idea of what they're doing. But they're doing a lot of interplanted crops in the greenhouse, and they do full biological pest control, meaning that there's no sprays of any kind, including organic sprays. They're totally reliant on the integration of beneficial insects to manage the pests in the greenhouse. And they do this by setting up an environment that those beneficial insects will thrive in. So they have to bring in insects, but then they also have to have certain plants that those insects thrive in, so that they have more than just the food of the other pests that they're eating. It's very interesting. They spent like $45,000 on biological control in the previous year. So it's a significant part of their operation. And in this one, he's going to talk more about it. So I hope you enjoy it. Keep in mind, this is a small clip of the longer types of content that I do at FromTheField.farm. And in this, we did over 2 hours with Andrew at Manns Organics. The first video went up on From the Field last week. The next one's going to come up this week. So I hope you enjoy it.
Some of these look tropical.
Yeah, so for example, the castor beans here, they are pruned heavily. The castor bean is actually very specific. It's a host plant for a beneficial mite called degenerans. And I can actually get them to live and overwinter on the castor bean plant. Once my peppers are flowering and we're getting pollen, then they will fully establish on the pepper plant and basically make it bulletproof against thrips. Thrips is the pest of choice there. So that's what the castor bean is for. I did have to buy some of the degenerans mites this spring to boost my population, but that's its specific purpose. We keep it pruned down. We had a couple we left the last year, we let them go for the season, and by the end of the year, we needed a sawzall to cut them off. They're about a 2.5 inch trunk in one season. So they're an amazing growing plant.
It's cool because to a person who didn't know anything about what you're doing, they'd come in here and go, man, your greenhouse is weedy.
Yes, that's kind of a chuckling question we have.
Well, and it's interesting because there's a lot of production. Like, these plants are healthy and they're producing, and it doesn't look like they're being competed with.
Correct. So that's what we say. It's not competition, it's synergy. So what we call a weed is really in a zone like this, the only thing we have that we'd consider a weed is a volunteer tomato, because they grow through, and we're going to come back in here with tomatoes at some point. So that's about the only thing we don't really want. We've had some stinging nettle that came with some potting soil that grew, and then, yeah, okay, we pull it back because it's not pleasant to work in. For us, it's definitely all the different roots, all the green material are doing photosynthesis, pumping root exudates in the ground, soil health, different roots penetrating deeper, different, they all have a purpose. Every plant has a different way it's working with the soil, different type of root system, a different, combination of sugars that it's putting into the soil. So if we run a higher diversity of plants, we're less concerned about rotation. Nature doesn't rotate. If we would grow strictly peppers in a zone and strictly tomatoes and then swap it back and forth, we have no rotation. It's, oscillation at best. So leaning towards a higher diversity is part of that whole aspect of nutrient, recycling, soil health, worms, feeding to life, capturing more sunlight. I don't like to what I call spill sunlight. So that's the trying here. This in here, you'll notice that there's a lot of other growth. And actually, if we go to another zone right away, you'll see there's a lot less bottom growth. Yeah, come on. And the reason for that is peppers are quite slow growing. We're in June, so we're a couple of weeks away from the, not even, from the longest day. And we've got a lot of light, and yet these pepper plants are not canopied over, right? A tomato will, in 10 weeks from planting, canopy over and really shade out the bottom growth so we don't get the vigorous growth. So peppers is where this really shines in that sense. Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, so in our pepper crop, aphids are probably the number one challenge. So ladybugs there, the parasitic wasps, and we are fully biological control. So we're talking $45,000 budget a year for 1 acre of greenhouse, roughly, for insects that we're purchasing. And it's much more about preventative measures than it is about catching up. So that took quite a few years. Probably the most challenging part of greenhouse growing for me was learning the bugs, the ins and the outs, and when and where, and which beneficials work better and which ones don't, and all of that. Yeah, that's a career on its own, and an interesting one.
So 45,000.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what a conventional grower would pay for the same square footage?
Most of them do not use the biologicals as seriously as we do because they have
just for conventional solutions.
Yes, that I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. What I was referring to is how they will use, a lot of them are using biologicals, and they'll use it to an extent, but if a situation gets a little out of control, or it's, then they can revert to, so they call that the IPM. I'm kind of not so much an IPM, I'm just biological control.
Right.
And so when it comes to those products, I don't know. I would say for what I spend on aphid control some years, when things are a little tougher to control, they're probably 10 cents on the dollar for a chemical option. So you have to be very committed.
Well, and you're selling a premium product, and the price point's a lot different than conventional. So
it is. Still, I think, challenging for us. We are wholesale, and that is still something, greenhouse it's intensive, it's high cost, and because we're wholesale, our pricing is good. It's stable for the year. We do set pricing for the year, and most of our prices have been quite similar for the last couple of years. But overall, it's a fairly tight business for us. I think most of the greenhouses in Alberta are kind of that same. It's been pretty tight.
Are these host plants?
Yes, these are just what we call banker plants. There's a lot of them listed. They're looking a little tired. We tried to rejuvenate them a bit, but they're a little tired.
Yeah.
But yes, that's just for the beneficials. So
yeah, so that's
marigolds and a few other things. And now you really see just the alyssum for the most part.
Yeah. All right, guys, if you want to see more content like that, check out fromthefield.farm. The membership registration is open until July 19th. Hope to see you in there.